Helpful.
According to the New York Times, 70% of girls in Africa do not finish primary school. Not only this, but girls in Africa are 20% less likely than their brothers to even start primary school. I hope those shocks back you. They don't sit well with me at all. In America, especially, we tend to take our education for granted. I don't know about you, but in my life, there's been multiple times where I slept through class or didn't show up because I didn't really feel like it. Not in this class, of course, but certainly in others. In third world countries, governments need to take change in order to fund primary and secondary levels of education so that more women have the opportunity to become educated. According to Women Education Mechanism for Nation Building, this gap in women's education is one of the biggest problems facing our world currently, and its repercussions continue to spur on more issues. Today, we will look at the leading problems that lead to this gap in education for women, the direct and indirect consequences of this gap, specifically focusing on the problem of overpopulation, and if I would present to you a policy in which you can act upon to create change within the sphere of the problem. While there are many reasons that lead to this gap in educational opportunity for women, two of the leading reasons are that the government continues to put funding into university level education rather than primary and secondary school level of education, and many parents are unwilling to send their daughters to get educated and more inclined to send their sons. According to Genie back in the bottle, an unequal continent becoming less so. For many years, third world country governments have continued to push their money to the university level of education, leaving primary and secondary school level of education without much funding. This same article claims that once there was a change from third world country governments to push more money into the lower levels of education, they saw a 20% increase in the amount of students attending these schools, with most of them being girls. In addition, Explore Census data claims that for people over 25, for every year of education that somebody receives following graduating middle school, this correlates to a $5,000 increase in the amount of income they're able to receive through their job. This shows just how vital it is for the government to put money into the lower levels of education, as this is creating change and allowing women a better chance to become independent later in life. In addition to this, many parents are less inclined to send their daughters off to school because they have little money already, and schooling costs hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars, and they believe that there is no return in sending their girls to school. See, in many countries, third world countries, when a daughter goes off and gets married, her income benefits go to her husband and her husband's family rather than her blood relatives. Versus when a son gets married, much of his income still goes to his older family. Because of this, parents who are poor have to make the choice of spending hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars on their daughter or their son. And because many of these families do not have money to do both, they choose the son because they're able to receive more direct benefits from his education. The New York Times claims that these cultures have a saying: educating your daughter is like watering your neighbor's garden. The most direct way of creating change is for governments to take this money that they are putting into the university level of education and put it into secondary and primary school levels of education. The New York Times claims that when the country of Uganda decided to abolish fees for primary and secondary levels of education, they saw an increase in the amount of students attending schools. While there were previously 2.5 million students attending schools, this soon increased to 6.5 million people attending schools, with the majority of them being girls. This shows that there is not only a demand and a desire for women to be educated in these countries, but also the leading reason why they are not currently being educated does have to do a lot with financial reasons. While this study was published in 2005 and claimed that they hoped to have other third world countries follow in the footsteps of Uganda and make changes in abolishing fees for education, little has been done since then, and that is why we need to take a stand now to call on third world country governments to put more funding into primary and secondary school level education and hopefully eventually abolish the charges of these schools. While many parents claim that they don't want to send their daughters off to school because they do not receive any personal benefit, there are numerous larger societal benefits by educating women. According to World Vision, 58 million primary school-aged children aren't enrolled in school. 53% of these are girls. These children are at a greater risk of exploitation, child marriage, and decreased income learning potential. One of the biggest problems facing our world right now is overpopulation. According to the importance of educating girls, the single most effective way to lead to smaller, healthier, and better educated families is by educating women. This same article claims that by doubling the amount of women in secondary school education from 19 to 38% would correlate with a decreased child fertility rate from 5.3 to 3.9 and help decrease child mortality too. Notice this article says that by doubling the amount of girls finishing secondary school, not university level graduates. This goes back to the idea of the government and where they need to be spending their money. There was such a great impact when the government put their money into lower levels of education, as this helps create a greater impact for lower and middle income families. While this change is great for lower income families, it is seen even more at a higher university level. According to women 15 to 50 who have a child in the last 12 months, girls who have not graduated high school are 3 times more likely to have a child than girls who have graduated college. Overpopulation is one of the biggest problems facing our world right now, and one of the largest steps we as a globe can take in order to solve this is making sure that women in third world countries are educated so they have a better opportunity to become independent and learn reasons of how they can take care of themselves and not just rely on their husband for giving birth to a child. So hopefully by now, the urgency of the situation is clear. So I'd like to present to you a policy and a petition you can act upon to create change. According to About GPE, Global Partnership for Education, this organization works with third world countries in order to call them to make change and focus their money on primary and secondary levels of education. This petition calls upon these governments to make primary and secondary levels of education completely free so that more girls are able to go and get educated. Here's a QR code if you guys want to scan it and sign this petition. We can also come back to it later after I finish so you can have more time to scan it. In conclusion, there are many problems that face our country and our world. However, the lack and gap of educational opportunities for women is one of the biggest and continues to spur on more issues. Today, we have looked at what problems lead to this gap of education, the direct and indirect consequences at a larger societal level that come to it, and I presented you with a policy in which you can enact upon to create change. It is easy to sit back and be apathetic about this issue and think it's not affecting me in any way, but I assure you it is, especially at a larger societal level. According to the New York Times, about 70% of girls in Africa do not finish primary school. Not only that, but girls in Africa are 20% less likely to start primary school than their brothers. What are you going to do to change that?
What'd you think?
I feel I did decent. Again, I blacked out, so I don't really know what I was saying.
At what point did you black